You're watching Mugen TV RPG Haven. Experience a fantasy like no other.
Hey guys, it's MugenLord here, and before we begin with this video, just want to let you guys know, if you haven't checked out my last video, which I talk about how Xenoblade Chronicles 2 has reinvigorated my love and passion for JRPGs. I really had fun with that video. I was just going off the cuff, just giving you my raw thoughts and how I felt about the game and how it just shaped everything as far as my love for the JRPG genre. I really enjoyed that video, and I've just been having fun with these past couple of videos, just expressing myself, and I'm just going to do a bit more of these. So make sure you go check it out. If you like that type of content, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the like button if you like the video. Definitely hear your thoughts about your relationship with the Xenoblade Chronicles series. So let's dive right into this video. We want to just shift gears just a little bit, because I want to talk about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, but more so the Age of Calamity, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity in particular, because I really have a bone to pick with this game in particular, is because this game had a lot of potential in my mind in terms of story. I enjoyed the gameplay, but in terms of story, this game had so much set up for some potential, and to me, in my opinion, after I finished the game, Muso's and just Nintendo in general had just dropped the ball with this. But what is my relationship with Muso games? If you guys don't know, the Muso games are pretty much the developers who pretty much worked on games like the Dynasty Warriors series. Is where you just take a character and they just put you in the midst of a battlefield of thousands of soldiers, and you just become a complete badass, and you just wreck enemies left and right, destroy enemy strongholds, boost your team's morale and everything. Now the thing was, when the Dynasty Warriors first released, especially when it first dropped on the PS2, when I had Dynasty Warriors 2, I thought it was fun at first, but after a while, Muso games become kind of repetitive. They become button mashers, mindless, just mashing. You don't really have to think much, and it got kind of boring for me. I guess the whole fad behind just having a bunch of enemies on screens just getting wrecked by your character had just just wore off on me, and I just didn't enjoy them. So I never turned back ever since, because the Muso games has just been milking the Dynasty Warriors franchise forever, and I just couldn't get into them anymore. But it wasn't until they kind of like shift gears a bit, when they decided to start doing crossover with other companies and using their IP to create their other type of Dynasty Warrior type games with other companies, like Dynasty Warriors Gundam. They did that for a while. Now the thing is, I enjoy Gundam anime, but I'm not like a super big fan of Gundam. But my brother Keel Lancer and DX Strike love Gundam to death, so they really enjoyed the Dynasty Warrior Gundam. So I wasn't really on the Muso game wave until they released the first Hyrule Warriors, and enjoyed the hell out of it, because what they did was they took the Legend of Zelda franchise and some of its gameplay, and they mixed it together with the Dynasty Warriors gameplay, and plus you get to play as some of your favorite Zelda characters, which I thought was pretty cool, and that's what really got me into actually playing them. But the icing on the cake was when Square Enix had joined with the Muso's games with the Dragon Quest Warrior franchise, and Dragon Quest Warrior 2 in particular was one of my favorites. I actually did a review on that years ago, and I really enjoyed that. And what they did was they took the Dragon Quest aesthetics, they took some of the gameplay as far as class, RPG elements, and just combined it with the Dynasty Warriors gameplay. But this time they added dungeons, puzzles, a hub world town that you could visit like a traditional JRPG, and I really enjoyed the hell out of it. And it kind of like made me a fan. So just right around the corner, not too long, years later, Nintendo comes back and they wanted to try again with a Hyrule Warriors 2. Now, Hyrule Warriors 1 was more of a celebration of the Legend of Zelda series by just taking all the different characters and from the different Zelda universes, putting together for fans to just have fun and enjoy. Story wasn't really like the big emphasis on it. But what Nintendo decided to do something different with this was when it comes to their first party IP, Nintendo is very protective of it. But this was the first time that Nintendo came together with a third party company and say, hey, we give Zelda or whatever the first party is in your hands. And what we're going to do is we're going to put emphasis on the story this time, and it's going to be canon to our mainline game. And that's what really got me. It's when they did the announcement of Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Nintendo said we're going to be helping in the terms of the story elements, because it is going to be canon, part of the Breath of the Wild series that they have established. And I was super excited. And the fact is that they were going back, I believe, was it 100 years ago, before the events of Breath of the Wild, the first game. And I was super excited because if you play Breath of the Wild, they go through a bit of the history of what happened to the world before Link had awakened from his sleep, while Zelda was pretty much holding Calamity Ganon at Hyrule Castle. And the thing that I loved most within those memories was the characters that they introduced, known as champions. And I don't know what Nintendo have done with these characters. Even though there wasn't much story surrounding these characters, Nintendo did a perfect job of just making them lovable. They made them charming in a way, and the way they set the story up, it made you want to know more details of how everything came to be, because the Zelda community just went crazy. Everybody putting their theories together, they theory crafting about what happened during the events of when the Calamity Ganon comes back and take over the Divine Beast and when he took down the champions, and how Hyrule fell. They came up with all these theories, and they were interesting theories. And the fact is that Nintendo wanted to elaborate on that with this game, Age of Calamity. We're going to go back, and what made it so interesting to me was that 100 years before the events of Breath of the Wild seemed like a very, very dark era within the timeline of Zelda. This was like really, really dark. No one came out alive in this, and that's what I loved about it so much, of how dark it was, and how Hyrule fell, and how the champions met their demise. That's why I loved it so much. And the fact is that Nintendo was going to allow us to live that experience. I said, hey, this could be one of the darkest Zelda stories that we've ever get the chance to play and get our hands on, and see the fall of Hyrule, and see the fall of the champions, and how Zelda had to make that great sacrifice in order for Hyrule to be saved eventually by Link, by putting him to sleep so he can regenerate and restore his strength once again. And also they have to put away the Master Sword. So I'm like, okay, this is something that I really, really want to do. This is something I really want to play. I really want to play this. So I was like, okay, here we go. I think this is something that Nintendo have never done before, where we're going to go down this dark path. We're going to see that the good guys aren't going to win at all. They're not going to win. I want to play this. I want to see this. This is a very bold step that Nintendo is doing. But before we get into that, if you guys are curious about Hyrule Warriors and how it plays, it's pretty much your typical Dynasty Warriors type gameplay, but with Zelda elements in it, which is pretty cool. You'll have your weapons from Breath of the Wild. You'll have your bombs. You have Link with his arrows. He has all those different weapon types, and which I think is pretty cool as well. And a crap ton of combos. And they have an upgrade system where you can upgrade your weapons, combine weapons together. There's also an actual world map where you can take on different missions, different quests, and you're able to recruit other characters on your journey, and you can use those characters to go through certain levels. So there's a lot of replayability to this game, which I thought was pretty cool. And the gameplay was like very, very addictive. And the fact is that it also took on the Breath of the Wild visual aesthetics, which kept everything consistent with the Breath of the Wild series. And also we got a chance to visit areas in Hyrule that we have never visited before, or we get to visit these areas when they were once livable, because as you know, in Breath of the Wild, once Link had woke up from his restoration, from his sleep to recover, Hyrule wasn't the same anymore, because Calamity Ganon has taken over the monsters had taken over, so most of the land was destroyed, a lot of towns was destroyed. So you got a chance to see those things before it fell, which I thought was pretty cool. So that was a lot of content for a lot of the Zelda channels to be able to cover, to see how things once were before it Calamity Ganon had taken over, which I thought was pretty cool. So, while playing the game, I'm actually exploring, the courtyards, some of the castle town of Hyrule, and I just thought it was pretty dope. And it was really, really, really fun. It was a dope experience when it came to that. So let's just go back and just discuss, why I became a bit disappointed. Well, seriously disappointed. Let me correct that. Why I became seriously disappointed with this game in terms of the story. I was satisfied in the gameplay, but the story is what really, really got me. So why is that? Well, in my opinion, I believe Nintendo was playing it really, really safe with the direction they decided to go with the game in terms of the story. Now, when the game opens up, it shows the earlier events before Breath of the Wild, which I like. You get to see Link as a knight. You get to see Impa when she was much younger, which I thought was pretty cool. But when the game opens up, it shows the exact moment when Calamity Ganon has taken out the champions and Zelda trying to protect Link after Link was trying to defend Zelda, and he gets hurt. He gets fatally injured. And you see Zelda activate her Triforce power. Now, the thing which was different was the fact is that you'll see this egg-like guardian that comes out of Zelda's, I guess you could say, laboratory or storage room, which you'll be able to actually visit that storage room in Breath of the Wild when you went to go travel to see one of Zelda's memories. So it kind of like puts all this together. Well, anyway, the baby guardian has witnessed the situation from that perspective, so you're actually able to see the actual event take place from the Breath of the Wild, but from the baby guardian's perspective. And then all of a sudden this wormhole opens up and it sucks the baby guardian through the wormhole, and then all of a sudden it takes him back in time before the Age of Calamity has taken over. Now, when I seen that, I said, oh my god, don't tell me this is going to be a time travel story, because we already know what this means. If there's a time travel story, especially in the Zelda game, that means some other chains of events are definitely going to change. And I started getting afraid was because, okay, if this is a time travel story, that means that Nintendo is not going to go down this dark path. There's a possibility that this baby guardian is going to pretty much proactively retcon everything that happened in the past of Breath of the Wild. That means we're going to be retconning this game. Us as the players are going to be retconning the story, proactively doing this. And that's what I was afraid of. So when the Guardian goes back through time, the Guardian is trying to warn Zelda about the upcoming events that's about to occur, that's about to take place. And then I started formulating my own theories. I was saying to myself, maybe the reason why Calamity Ganon take over is because of the baby guardian went back to try to tell them of the oncoming danger, and because now that they know the oncoming danger that's heading their way, they try to proactively try to stop those events from happening, and in the process of stopping these events from happening, cause the destruction or cause the resurrection of Calamity Ganon, which put them in the situation that they were in, that led them to the Breath of the Wild game. Now, I was hoping for that, meaning that there's some type of loop that's going on, a time loop, meaning that, all this happened because the baby guardian went through time, which caused the incident to happen. But as I started progressing through the story, that definitely wasn't the case at all. Because as you start playing through the game, you start seeing some of the events that did occur through Zelda's memories in Breath of the Wild. We start to actually play through these events now because we live in that time period. And we start to see how you start connecting the dots with some of the events with the characters. And also in this game, they also introduced a couple other new characters that we didn't know about. We found out about the wizard, the fortune teller, that had this evil guardian. with him, and that was also fueled with the essence of Calamity Ganon within it. So there's a lot of different elements that was added into the game, which kept my interest. But as we started progressing through the game, we started getting to the part where the champions get together like the Avengers. Zelda bring them all together like she's Nick Fury. And now we have to get the champions to ride the Divine Beast. I said, okay, we started to get to the point where the champions are about to meet their demise. I was like, maybe they're still going to go on this path where the Guardians, still meet their doom, meet their end. So all of a sudden, when Calamity Ganon gets revived, he comes back. And the champions to say, hey, we have to get to our Divine Beast. I said, okay, are we doing this? And also, you have to be Link, and you have to escape with Zelda. The king decided to stand back as Calamity Ganon takes over the Hyrule Castle, and he pretty much sacrificed himself, or so we think he sacrificed himself, in order to have Link protect his daughter. Now, this is where things really, really flipped everything on its head with me. The simple fact was, once you get to the part of the Divine Beast where Calamity Ganon takes over the Divine Beast, because if you play Breath of the Wild on, the first game, it was told that when Calamity Ganon took over the Divine Beast, the champions had died being trapped inside the Divine Beast. They died fighting within the Divine Beast, and it trapped their spirit in there. So you as Link had to defeat one of the essence of Ganon, and in order to free the spirit or the soul of the champion that was trapped within the Divine Beast. So the fact is that they had met their cruel fate within the beast that they were the champions over, was such a tragic thing when you play Breath of the Wild, and when you rescue their spirit, they give you a backstory about what happened and what their lives were like before they died. And that's what makes you love the character so much, the champion that much. So now this is what happens. Now we get to the part where the Divine Beasts get taken over by the essence of Ganon. All of a sudden, a time rift opens from the sky, and the descendants of the champions who you meet in the first Breath of the Wild game, they come through the portal, the rift in the sky, to come down and help the champions who are supposed to die and meet their end, and meet their tragic fate. But this time they come in to intervene. They come in to help Link defeat the essence of Ganon so they won't kill the champion. So I was like, oh my God. So Nintendo didn't have the guts to do it. They didn't have the guts to go down this dark path where everyone meets their end, meets their doom, meets their fate. And instead, we're retconning everything. Instead of letting the champions die and us witness this tragic end for these characters, instead we're going to save these characters. And to be honest, my enthusiasm to finish the game just poof, it just went away. But since I was near the end, I said, you know what, MugenLord, just finish the game and see how this all turns out. So now, after you defeat one Divine Beast and save that champion get a chance to see their descendant from the future, and the descendant get a chance to see their ancestor. So I think that was an interesting aspect. They get to see the past and the future sitting in one spot, conversating with one another. So after that, you have to go to each Divine Beast on the world map and save each champion. And each champion you run into, the descendant from the future for that champion comes down, and you have to team up with them to help them out so they won't meet their cruel fate. So you as the player was pretty much proactively retconning the story of Breath of the Wild, the past. You was rewriting history, pretty much. And to be honest, I was not a fan of that. I was like, are you serious? And I wish you could see my reaction and see my face each time I went to each champion and I was saving them, was because I'm like, I'm retconning the story. I'm saving everyone's life now, and I just didn't like that, because it wasn't going to, it was letting me know that I wasn't going to play that dark era within the Breath of the Wild universe. I wasn't going to be able to experience it. I wasn't able to play it. I wasn't able to do any of that. And I just think Nintendo is being a coward, in my opinion. Now, to me, also, I think this is also a corporate strategy as well, because now you know how the Zelda universe work with time. Because now that this event had happened, because also, spoiler alert, the fortune teller who pretty much was helping the Yiga clan was getting most of his information about the future from this evil guardian. Come to find out, that evil guardian was the guardian that Zelda had as a child, the one that went through time. Even though that guardian went through time to stop these events, it still doesn't change the events that was happening in the timeline that we know in Breath of the Wild, where everybody met their fate. That guardian was still there, and Calamity Ganon had pretty much took that over and made that one evil, which allowed the fortune teller, that wizard, to be able to see into the future and pretty much make the moves that he needed to make in order for Calamity Ganon to pretty much rise. So I was like, wow. So what happened was the essence of Calamity Ganon had gotten into the baby guardian that you currently have, the one that's trying to prevent things from happening. Then he gets taken over, then you had to fight it. It was sad though, and you had to actually end up hurting it, pretty much hurt it, and then it ended up sacrificing itself, and it was sad. But in the end, after you beat the game, you can find the different pieces and parts to be able to bring it back together. So there's pretty much no consequences. The baby guardian didn't, sacrifice itself, but as you beat the game, you can find the parts and you get the extra ending, the real ending. And when you bring back the baby guardian and stuff, and you get like a different ending credits and stuff like that. So all in all, I was disappointed. And like I said, I think this is more so like a corporate strategy. And what I mean by that is, because this whole time thing that the Zelda franchise have, this game had pretty much created a whole new timeline. So maybe this could open up a potential sequel for Hyrule Warriors, where now we're going down a whole nother path with the Breath of the Wild story, but through the Hyrule Warrior games. Maybe there might be a brand new enemy moving forward. Who knows? But I think this is another way to make more Hyrule Warrior games somehow. And also, in what way will this affect, I guess you can say, Breath of the Wild 2, if it has some effect on Breath of the Wild 2 moving forward. So that part I don't know, but to me, I thought it was cowardly of Nintendo not to go down that dark path and to pretty much save all the characters. No one dies. There was no real consequences. Zelda dad doesn't die, so everybody lives. You save everybody. And I don't know what it is right now with these games, where everybody, and it seems like the fandom always is like, have this thing where they just want everybody to have a good ending, where there's no tragic or there's no realism to it. Because when it comes to real life, man, the important part of life is there's not always going to be a happy ending. Or in order to reach that happy ending, sacrifices have to be made. Sometimes you're going to lose loved ones. Sometimes you're going to end up not being friends with certain people in order to reach that better outcome. If it means you have to sacrifice certain things, but it seems like fandoms nowadays, and even with these developers, they're creating games or they're reviving and rebooting games, and they just changing the outcome of characters that you grow to know and love and everything, and just giving everybody this happy ending, or where there's no real consequences. You do everything, and then they just take it all away by just keeping everybody alive, by retconning everything. And we already talked about this with Final Fantasy VII Remake, with the whole keeping Zack alive, and maybe there's a chance that Sephiroth may get redeemed, and maybe a chance that Aerith may live. it just seems like a lot of games are doing this now, and just not even just games, but movies as well. It's like this whole reboot or soft rebooting, or just retconning. This whole retconning culture that's going on within these games is just getting ridiculous, and that's what really disappointed me about this game. And I mean, there's really nothing more to say about it. You know, this is just my thoughts on how I felt about the Age of Calamity story. It really just took the wind out of me with it. I'm just really sad and really disappointed. Nintendo, you really could have had something right here. Like, this would have been a game that would have been on my list of like games that would have really got me in my feelings, similar to what Xenoblade Chronicles 2 did, especially the Golden Country of Torna. It really got me in my feelings, and this could have been that game. Because like, if you ever played Breath of the Wild and you ever played its DLC, man, the champions, man, like their backstory, even though they gave you just little bits of information, and when they took that group picture together at the end as if they were a family, oh my god, dude, you understand what that did to me. And as far as my feelings are concerned, that really got me. Like, man, like, they all met a tragic end. Nobody came out of this alive, and Nintendo took that from me. They really did, by just keeping them alive. But that's about it. That's pretty much my thoughts and how I feel about Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity and this story. Pretty disappointed. Enjoyed the gameplay. I enjoyed the overall experience. I enjoyed, but the story kind of left me disappointed. I definitely want to hear your thoughts though. What do you think about Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity? What do you think about the story? What do you think about the gameplay? Did you enjoy it? Did you have fun with it? Definitely like to hear your thoughts. Is it one of the better Musou games, or what other Musou games do you prefer over Hyrule Warriors series? Definitely want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button, and also hit the subscribe button if you enjoy this kind of content. I have another video coming up. I'll be covering, I believe, Marvel Alliance 3. I have a lot to talk about with that game. I really enjoyed that game. We're gonna talk more about it, just to give you my thoughts on it, and maybe this could encourage you to go get the game out. You know, get the game a try yourself. So that's about it. This is MugenLord signing off. I'll see you game fiends later. Peace out.